Hello to all the Atlanta United fans. My name is Jurgen Damm, and you are watching Scarves and Spike, an Atlanta United podcast.
Welcome, everyone, to Scarves and Spikes on a wishing for a result that is not a loss Wednesday. How are you doing, Sydney?
Get a point. Just get a point. I feel like we're already at that stage, probably not just 9 matches in. Like, get a point. Any means necessary. It's just, I don't want to even get into Philadelphia again. I feel like that drum has been beaten numerous times, so that horse has been beaten past the point of death at this point.
No more hitting horses. We have to move forward.
Exactly. And
who better to get it going with? I think we got someone right away.
Yeah, let's not even waste any time. Let's just get right to it. Atlanta versus Orlando again, Saturday, 7:30 MLS Season Pass. Calling the match with Max Bridas over there in Exploria Stadium, Inter-Co Stadium, not Exploria Stadium, Inter-Co Stadium, will be Brian Dunseth. Brian, how's it going?
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Yeah, doing good. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah,
well, let's not say good. Well, you can't say good. If you've seen the table, then you know how we're really doing.
Yeah, no, listen, I get it, right? What are we, 9 match days in, something like that? And I kind of always, I think theoretically, we always have this conversation. Like, once you get to 8, 9, 10 games of the season, kind of have a good idea who you are, maybe more importantly, who you aren't. But right now, it's about manufacturing momentum for those teams that are kind of finding these weird dips, kind of these Jekyll and Hyde performances. But, going back to a couple of weeks ago when T.O. Max and I were down at the Benz and we got to see the game against FC Dallas, I thought we were talking about momentum, a little bit of a formation adjustment. Where's Miranchuk going to play? Where's Miggy going to be? Is Saba going to be on the left? Is he going to be on the right? Like, what are we going to find out about this team? And at the end of the day, we found out on the afternoon that they ended up dropping some points. So I don't think anyone obviously thought that with the amount of money spent in the offseason and kind of the infrastructure adjustments, I guess, if you will, the new faces and names coming in, I think we all kind of expected Atlanta United to be higher up in the table. But I think it also, with all due respect, shows what a juggernaut the Eastern Conference has been to start this year.
For sure. So you're a first timer here, so welcome.
Thank you.
We're gonna start you off with a very easy question. 2 of them.
Uh-oh.
How do we fix Atlanta United, and can we get it fixed by Saturday?
That's a great question. How do you fix it? Well, we'll pull the old Bruce Arena, and you just say you score more goals than your opponent. And if you fix it defensively, you let in less goals. At the end of the day, I think manufacturing momentum is kind of a really valuable commodity. And I can remember talking to Dax last year and asking him in kind of the buildup. I think we did the game at LA Galaxy, and then we did the playoff game down in Orlando, Max and I. And we were trying to figure out like who the leaders are in this group. And last year, I think it was very evident that the polar bear, Brad Guzan and Dax McCarty, were the out and out vocal leaders, the guys you turn to, and kind of this no nonsense, like, yeah, you can have fun, but like, who's the guys that's going to pull people up by the shorts, maybe ring them around the collar every once in a while. And I still unfortunately have the same questions, minus Dax, still have Brad. But now as I look at this group, Ronnie Dyla, his coaching staff, there's so much experience from a player's perspective, from, an understanding of what the infrastructure of Major League Soccer is and is not. And at this point, when we talk about talent, you've got talent, but you also kind of got this high level talent. You kind of got this young, maybe naive at times, up and coming group of young players. And I kind of feel like in that middle phase is where we're kind of waiting for guys to step up. And from afar, when you kind of start digging through this roster, we can talk about like for like. We can talk about, players that seem to be familiar in terms of talent level. But unfortunately, when you're talking about, the nuclear arms race of spending in Major League Soccer, we kind of feel like when we're talking about manufacturing momentum, that momentum would have already been manufactured, and that we would have seen the immediate effect of Ronnie Deila and his staff implementing whatever. And again, we do this thing about tactics and shape and identity, and we say it's a 4-4-2 or 4-2-3-1 and whatever. At the end of the day, I think when I look at Atlanta United, I'm waiting to see like who really steps up, like who says this is my team. Like, I am undeniably the leader of this group. And it's not just about performance. It's about how you're going to step up with presence, how you're going to step up with kind of this vocal, non-negotiable, like, all right, enough of this. Enough of this. Like, let's show some pride. Let's show some pride for the badge, because I think it was the season that we felt like all of the kerfuffle that's happened over these last couple of years, that there was serious investment, there was the right leadership, and with Ronnie Deila being the man put in charge, that with his experience and success that he had in lifting an MLS Cup trophy up in Portland with NYCFC, that we'd see some more tangible, quicker results. And obviously that hasn't been the case, much to the frustration of the fan base.
And you say leadership, and it's funny you say that, because I think the fans and us have felt the same way basically since 2021. Or I'm sorry, 2020, when Joseph Martinez goes down with that injury. I mean, we had questions when Miles Robinson was here. Can he be a leader on this team? Follow up the next year. Could Brooks Lennon be the leader in this team? And it feels like they're bringing different players in, but every single year it's who's the leader, who's taking that role. Ozzy Alonso was supposed to be one of those players years back when they brought him in. Unfortunately, he couldn't stay healthy. Dax was another guy that came in, another veteran to come in and help him. And now he's gone. And now it just seems like it's Brad. And we're back to where we were before, is besides Brad Guzan, who's a constant, which he's not going to be here forever. who can be the leader? And Brooks Lennon is one of the guys I keep going to and saying, why isn't it him?
So I know Brooks out here in Salt Lake City. I've known Brooks for a long time. And when he came back from Liverpool and started at RSL, Brooks was an out-and-out right winger. And I would put Brooks kind of in that category. And again, understand the nuance of the conversation. I would put Brooks in the category of like a Christian Pulisic, where you're going to lead by example, you're going to lead by your play, but you're not going to necessarily be the leader by your voice. And we're in a different timeline, right? Like the old, like when I played, it's different because social media has such a crazy effect and such an interesting dynamic on the modern day athlete. So again, being a leader and using your voice comes naturally. And there's different leaders, right? You don't want to be, there's some leaders that just bitch and moan and throw their arms around and super demonstrative. Like I'm a Man United fan, unfortunately. And I watch Bruno Fernandes, Bruno Fernandes, and he's whipping his arms around all over the place. And I can't stand it. It drives me nuts. But then when I watch him on the field, he's hands down the best player on the field. Like no one else comes next to him, right? So there's that leader by I'm available every day. My training habits are incredible. Like I'm on the field and I see things that nobody else sees versus, the moaning, right? The bitching and moaning. Like that's not the leader that anybody wants to see. We're also in this weird thing where we talk about like leadership from a manager, right? And I've had these conversations so many times with Tony Meola on Counterattack on Sirius, where it's like, we want to be, what's the right way to explain this? Like we want guys that represent us and represent our club, but we want to be inspired by these guys, right? We want to listen to the words that are coming out of their mouth and not read an Instagram post about an apology. Like, oh man, we're here, I'm gonna fight for the badge and all this. Like, no, show me, like leave it on the field. And I think there's, in a way, I go back to the beginning of Atlanta United, and you guys were so spoiled because it came together so quickly. And from a coaching perspective and a player perspective, and like, I remember walking into the Benz and like asking questions about like, so what's like the crossover between Falcon fans and Atlanta United fans? And someone was like, I forget who it is. Someone's like 3 to 5% is like season ticket crossover. And I was like, that's amazing. That means that you have captured the imagination of a very sophisticated soccer fan base that's in, in Georgia. And me, well, not just Georgia, because my man Bo in Alabama was driving over, and he was a season ticket holder. And like, you guys in that region just really captured all of that. And then everything kind of went sideways, right? The disappointment upon disappointment and managerial carousel and turnover from players where their investment was always there. But the player profile didn't seem to want to stick around too long. Now I think the challenge for Garth and Chris Henderson, who did an amazing job trying to get Inter Miami back on the tracks after everything that went sideways, there's going to be some hiccups and there's going to be mistakes. But I mean, I know from a league-wide perspective, you guys are still viewed as one of the teams that has the capabilities of going out and spending incredible amounts of money and bringing in difference makers. Now, how those difference makers gel, and by the way, there's also something to be said about not spending money just on the best players. It's about spending the best money about the best players and the best human beings that want to be there, right? Not the kids that want to come and party and do whatever on the side, like the people that are invested in the community that want to be about everything that Atlanta United stands for. So unfortunately, I think we all, and myself included, projected Atlanta United without a shadow of a doubt to be a playoff team. But how high in this playoff ranking are we seeing in, again, I know you guys don't want to hear this, but effectively version 1 of whatever this Atlanta United is starting to look like? Because I know, like, if we use Charlotte and Dean Smith as an example, the better part of 12 months is still 12 months to figure out exactly what you have on your roster. And can you find those guys to come in that aren't maybe pass-throughers, if that makes sense, but guys that are, the Ozzy Alonsos, the Dax, with all due respect, are at the end of their careers. So how do you find that guy like in their mid 24, 25 part of their career that's like, nope, this is going to be my home. I'm going to sign multiple contracts, be a part of this club. I want to be a stand-up human being within the community. I want to invest in everything that Atlanta United is investing in me. And I think that's a part of, again, project that you guys are in the midst of.
Yeah, so let me ask you this. You play for several teams throughout your MLS career. But no, I say that, just to no, I say that, kind of staring back to the locker room conversation, who was that player for you in the locker room that said, we're not going to take any crap from any teams? Who was that? Who was that? Maybe not a player that held the armband per se, but I guess who was that player, that vocal leader, or maybe a silent leader?
Yeah, no. So I started my career with the New England Revolution, and I walked into a locker room that had Walter Zenga, Spider-Man, like the iconic 1990s goalkeeper, from Inter Milan. I had Alexi Lawless. I had Joe Max Moore. I had Mike Burns. Like I walked in as a kid from Southern California, watching the '94 World Cup, and watching, the very first game that was ever played up at Spartan Stadium, and Eric Winalda's goal against Jeff Hagan. I was actually down at the Indio Polo Fields watching all of the MLS teams go through their preseason, because I was at Cal State Fullerton. A couple days later, after that first opener in San Jose, I was at the Rose Bowl watching New York, New Jersey MetroStars and Tony Meola playing the LA Galaxy. So I am thoroughly invested in this league. But these were like my heroes. Like, I was walking in and playing against like the El Tanque Hurtados and like the Hermosillos and the Valderramas. And I got to play with Leonel Alvarez, who was like the defensive midfielder for Colombia behind Valderrama. So the leaders come in different sizes, shapes, and different identities. But I learned very quickly there was like non-negotiables. And the non-negotiable was like, we can have a ton of fun, but like when it's time to work, we work. And in the midst of my early phases of my career, being in the U.S. men's national team, in the build up to the '98 World Cup, going over to Glasgow Rangers and spending 4 months there and getting to play with Paul Gascoigne and Ali McCoist and Reno Gattuso and Barry Ferguson, going to Bayer Leverkusen the following year and getting to be around Niko Kovac, the manager of Borussia Dortmund right now. And so you kind of learn as a young player, these are the standards, these are the levels, this is what acceptable. And the very first day, I'll tell you a great story. The very first day, Thomas Rongen's my head coach. smoking unfiltered Marlboros, the spit stuck between his, and he's just like, Alexi, why don't you tell this young buck what his role is? And Alexi stands up in front of the entire bus and he's like, Dunny, you grab the balls, you grab the bibs, you grab the cones, you pick up the trash, you're picking up the bags at the airport. You're going to be the first one on, the first one off. And if I ever see you in the training room, if I ever see you getting a massage, I'm going to punch you in the face. And it was like, I just knew right then. I was like,
sounds like Alexi would say that.
No, and listen, like I learned it was amazing. And the reason why I'm in this side of the business, because I trailed Alexi and I would watch him go and shake everyone's hand and do an ESPN interview and pull the goatee down and fling out the hair. And I'd be sitting in the, he's my roommate on the road and he'd be strumming his guitar and it'd be like the 98 World Cup Adidas commercials and like him breaking through the house in the build up to France, or like him doing a Powerade commercial. I'm like, this guy, clown, like busting chops. But like those early phases, like we also understand, I was making, when I signed with Project 40, all right, second Project 40 player ever signed, I was making $27,000 a year.
Yeah.
I was living in Boston. My rent was $1,000 to share a room. And it was $778.76 every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So like, it was different then. Like they're 18-man rosters were 18-man rosters. And there was jeopardy in performance every single day. And I would equate like Justin Glad at Salt Lake, like a similar career. He's making $1.6 million a year. When I retired in 2006, I was making like $115,000.
Yeah.
So it kind of like shows this stratospheric growth that we're seeing in Major League Soccer, but it also, there's protection mechanisms. I mean, our contracts were only semi-guaranteed. Like you got to July 1st and if that phone rang, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Apologies for cursing, but like, that's when you're like, yeah, I mean, this could be done. So like watching the growth, incredibly jealous and envious, but also understanding like, it's just a different time. And so to figure out ways to identify leaders, like that's I think part of this challenge. Talking to Ronnie Dyla in that build up to FC Dallas, we could talk about shape and tactics and substitution patterns and who's effective in the best positions. But at the end of the day, you really need somebody that's going to be like, and it can't just be the goalkeeper. You got to be like, let's go, like intensity, like that growl. And I don't see that as of right now in Atlanta. And I think that's got to be 1A in terms of acquisition and continue evolution on the roster.
You say that, and that was actually one of the questions I prepped for you, because last year, obviously, Atlanta was at the lowest of the lows. Rob Valentino comes in, have some mixed results. You sneak into the playoffs on the last game of the season. You biggest upset in MLS history. You know that there's 2 DP spots missing. Everything's now like the hope's coming up. You bring in Latte Lath, you bring in Miguel Almiron, the legend of Atlanta United. Vibes are there, but the vibes haven't been there basically the entire season. So the fans ask, because we know that Rob Valentino was that. You saw those videos throughout the playoffs that they were posting. Like, this guy's just dropping F-bombs left and right.
Yeah.
And
it did.
They got results out of it. And now they're not. So now people are questioning, did we mess up with Rob?
Yeah, listen, I think that Rob, this is such a kind of a unique conversation because, Rob, when you talk about like a guy that you'd want to play with, that was Rob, and again, there's nuance to like managers, like figureheads, right? And then like coaches and coaching staff. And for example, like Peter Vermes in Sporting Kansas City, he gets fired on May 31st. Kerry Zavagnin, who's literally been his assistant and teammate for the past 17 years, comes in, and in 3 games, they score 9 goals, and they get 2 wins out of the 3. I mean, they just smashed San Jose 5-3. So, like, what's really that different? Like, is Peter that bad of a coach and Kerry was that great of a coach? Like, it can't be that simple, right? So I think there's something when we talk about what Rob did, it was almost like, man, we got nothing to lose. Like, let's just dumb it down. Let's just keep it simple, stupid. Like, let's go out. Let's represent. Let's play for pride. By the way, my job's on the line. Your job's on the line. Don't think for a second that this roster is not going to be upgraded. Like, F them. I mean, like, Ray Hudson was my coach in Miami Fusion, right? Every time we go into our games and game model who we're going to play against. And you know what the last thing he said? He'd take a marker and he'd put it on the board and it would just say Fuckem. And that would be the last thing we'd say as a team before we walk on the field. And I think like those are kind of like when people talk about vibes, that's like a cultural element that's built organically inside of a locker room. And I think that's exactly what happened. He figured out a way to kind of tweak the emotion to create the momentum that manufactures the results. And I mean, I can't imagine there was a fan that thought on that last day, Orlando, that they go in, that even in the penalty shoot, like the goal that was scored when Joseph scores and kind of like gives Brad the side eye, that then goes into penalties. Like everyone's like, dude, what a great run. Like, okay, like we understand if they go out like that. And then all of a sudden, like it just keeps churning and rolling. And all of a sudden, that's manufacturing results. So listen, is Ronnie Dyla, and I mean this with the utmost respect, is Ronnie Dyla the best coach available at a time when he's hired at Atlanta United? Probably not, but he was deemed to be the right coach. And whatever, the parameters for Garth and Chris to identify who the right guy was at this moment to lead this team, familiarity, success within the familiarity, those two things check a lot of boxes. But now the challenge, as much as we talk about the players, it's also Ronnie and his coaching staff, right? Kenny Miller and everybody involved. It's up to them to figure out the right ways to effectively, to Rob's credit, press the right buttons to get this team rolling once again.
So what you really need is to find like the Emilio Estevez quack type thing to get the team out, to get moving out there.
Yeah.
Funny story, one kid I grew up with was actually one of the stunt doubles for Mighty Ducks.
Oh, yeah.
And he was on the black team, I believe, like the
Hawks.
The Killers, yeah.
Oh, the Hawks.
Yeah, little
That's
Matty,
awesome.
man. He was a killer.
I'm a Mighty Ducks
That's
super
great.
fan, so I try to throw it in every podcast.
Yeah.
I grew up in Southern California, and I hate the
There you
Lakers.
go.
I hate the Dodgers. I hate the Kings. So Clippers, Ducks, like I'm all good.
Right. Yeah. There you go. So let's talk about Saturday's match, right? Orlando. Things aren't going the best for Orlando. They've played to back-to-back goalless draws, and I thought we were going to be talking about how Orlando finally has put it all together at the beginning of the season. Now they've hit kind of this rough patch of form. Not as bad as Atlanta United, but I feel like this is a match where who stands to benefit the most, I think, from a result? Is it Orlando looking at the expectations that are on them, especially after Pereira signed a contract extension, or Atlanta, where another loss can really spiral the fan base even more?
Yeah, it's Atlanta United. I mean, it's on the road. I mean, Orlando's not doing great, right? I mean, they started off with a couple great results and 3 consecutive draws, haven't scored a game, picking up unnecessary red cards. I mean, Rodrigo Schlegel, you feel like every game is just in that gray area of getting sent out. Rafael Santos picked up that second yellow, so he's unavailable. Schlegel comes back in the team. Big changes in the offseason in terms of identifiable superstars, and then kind of maybe this new upcoming generation. And buy low, sell high. I mean, Atlanta United knows that fan base knows it best, probably better than anyone. With Pasalic coming in, Muriel starting instead of Duncan McGuire, Ramiro Enrique was a man on fire in the playoffs, and he's been more coming off the bench recently. Cartagena's picking up injuries. Jansen leaves the back line. Pedro Galese is still the octopus. He'll come up with some incredible saves, and at the same time, maybe some head scratching decisions. But for Poppy, a guy that I played with in both New England and FC Dallas, he transmits the same emotion. I mean, you talk about stone cold killer. He was like 5'6", 5'7", and would literally fillet anybody. I mean, talk about an emotional leader, a physical leader, a vocal leader. That was Oscar Pereira. And I think the game within the game is what they're really good at. There's a manipulation of, and we talk about like CONMEBOL teams, whether you're talking about Colombia, or you're talking about Uruguay, or you're talking about Argentina. there's a grit and a fight that comes along with Orlando that nobody wants to play them because, man, it's just going to be a dogfight, right? It's just going to be in the trenches, button heads, kicking the crap out of each other. And that's what they like, because if you can get under the player's skin, you can get, again, manufacturing something. But yeah, listen, I think we're all trying to figure out, specific to two players, Alexei Miranchuk and Miguel Almiron, who's the better quote unquote number 10. Whether you're talking about Schleich, who's the best quote unquote pivot 6-8 type of player that sits in that pocket. Do you want Miranchuk sitting a little bit deeper like he did against NYCFC and then spraying balls, pinging stuff around? Saba on that right hand side. There's so many little things right now that I think Ronnie, at the end of the day, what we don't understand, and I try to convey this frequently, is that we're judging the players between the white lines for 90 minutes, right? That's where we're saying, like, good game, bad game, great performance, poor performance. But we're not seeing what's the attitude of these guys stepping into the training rooms. Like, who's putting in the extra work, whether that's speed and agility, finishing, or that's lifting weights. Who in training is like Kyle Beckerman, for example. Dude was like 37 years old out here in Salt Lake. And I go to training and he'd be MFing people in 5v2. It'd be like a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And so, like, who's cutting angles on fitness runs? Like, who's, because you guys know, like, when you show up to training sessions and you see these guys, like, you can tell who's like leaving it on the field, and you can tell who's like, it's a pro day today.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what, from a fan base perspective, if I'm supporting Atlanta United, like, I want to see blood. I want to see sweat. I want to just see full out, like, I might not have it today, but physically I'm going to show you that I want it more than these guys. And I think that's kind of like the monster mentality that I think Atlanta United fans are kind of looking for. Who's that guy, or who are those guys? If you can't have that one leader, who's collectively kind of like, not today, like, we're not doing this again. Like, let's go to battle. And I always say, and people kind of take this the wrong way sometimes, and maybe it's old school thinking, but like, who's the guy or the group inside that locker room that there's non-negotiables, like, are willing to punch somebody? Because you got to, like, set the tone. I'm not condoning violence or like going to your workplace and punching people, but like, sports are different, right? Like, when you look at somebody and that, someone gives you the eyes, like, oh shit, like, I gotta step it up. Like, that's what I'm looking for this weekend down in Orlando.
And just real quick too, Latte Lot missing, or he'll be out due to the yellow card accumulation for Atlanta. Could that, and Tommy's kind of not happy with that, but
I forgot.
You forgot.
Yeah.
No, but could that, in a funny way though, help elevate the team? Because Latte Lot is going to be, he would have been the main focus for Orlando. He's the $22 million record signing. In a funny way, could that help Atlanta United in saying, hey, he's out, we all got to step our level of play up in support of him?
I hope so. I mean, you talk about right now, for one, if I'm an opponent's coach and Latte Lot is available, right? It's like, touch tight, goal side, don't let him run into space, bump him early, minimize his effect, try to push him backwards, try to push that ball back where it came from every single time, keep the game in front of you, tight shoulders, all that's, like, I'm thinking, like, as a center back, like, thumb him in the kidney, like, pinch him in his armpit, like, whatever I got to do to get in this guy's head. Like, that's the first guy I'm thinking about. So false nine, attack by committee, all of these things I think are probably up for negotiation. And, with all due respect, as much as we kind of want to, like, dumb it down, like, hey, it's this simple. I can't imagine that Ronnie Deila and his staff aren't working through, theoretically, all the different options that they have. And then ultimately, every manager tries to spring a trap, right? The complications of overthinking it, underthinking it, just going out and play. There's going to be some wrinkle that obviously he's going to be forced to come up with. So the question is, what's the wrinkle? How do they apply that, get the best out of the opponent, or, the best out of themselves to take advantage of that surprise to the opponent? Because usually you got about 15 minutes, right? for Oscar Pereira, whatever they throw, he and his staff are going to try to sort this out. You'll see him screaming and yelling and pointing, and Poppy's going to try to sort it out. So how do you, from the opening whistle, how do you take advantage of not having him by maybe giving a different look? And does that mean maybe a shift in the shape, playing in 3 in the back, playing with more out and out, outside backs a little bit higher, trying to overload the midfield? Maybe as simple as playing a little bit more direct. I did the game. Max and I did the game Columbus on the road at San Diego. Wilfred Nancy in Columbus just pinging the ball all over the place. You know what Mikey Varas did? He said, "Screw this! Kick the ball up over the top. Let's get the team out. Let's let Dreyer, just fly in behind." Next thing you know, they score a goal. They force who was it? I can't remember. Amundsen gets the red card, and the game's completely different. So there's moments where I think we overcomplicate the game in a lot of ways, playing out of the back, through the 6, all this shift to right back, all this stuff. Like sometimes we just dumb it down and play a little bit more direct and see if we can cause some havoc. And I think that could be one of the most important things that we see from Atlanta. How do they create havoc, force Orlando into mistakes? And that you got a player in like Schlegel in particular. If you can isolate him, he walks that really fine line every single time he steps on the field.
Before we let you go, you deserve an award because of everybody that we've had come on. Alexei Miranchuk is brought up in the first 2 minutes, and it took you about 28 minutes to bring him up here. So to you, sir.
Thank you, good sir.
Congratulations to that.
It's probably the first thing I've won since an Open Cup back in
Last one real quick. Tyler's always asking food and drink questions to everyone that comes on. Sydney, you had it wrong. It's back-to-back 0-0 draws for Orlando.
Yeah.
So what is your caffeine choice for match day?
Caffeine choice. Usually I just do like a little espresso. Full disclosure, if I don't like dehydrate myself, I'll just be sprinting to the bathroom like over the course of a match. So little espresso is usually, and then during games, what I use is like a Coke Zero or like a Diet Coke, just to like clear the palate, like as you're calling a game, because you get a little chalky after a while. But those are my. On this trip in Orlando, I'm not trying to drink my way through Epcot. I can promise you that. Even though it does sound fun, it's more of an in and out trip.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. We appreciate you coming on. And Bruno says not a latte.
It's good. Well done.
The latte jokes have been there. So with that, have fun on the call.
Yep.
And hopefully Atlanta gets some point.
Yeah. Say hi to Max for us, by the way.
Well, definitely. T.O. Max is I am the luckiest guy in the world. I've been working with Max. He called my games as a player. I've been working with him since I retired in 2006. We've probably called 300-400 games together. Wow. I can't tell you. He's like, if not my closest friend in the business, one of my closest friends in the business. He is an absolute sweetheart of a human being. That's why I call him Uncle Max. And I couldn't be luckier with who I've been teamed up with Apple. So appreciate it, guys. Best of luck this weekend, and looking forward to the broadcast.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Of course.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Ryan. Cheers.
See ya.
Ryan Dunseth.
First time winner of the bringing up Alexei Miranchuk after the 20-minute mark. Takes that long.
Well done
to bring him up. I mean, that's usually the topic. It's been the hot topic since basically week 2.
Right. I feel at this point, there's more. There's not more concern for Atlanta United at this point than Alexei Miranchuk. Like getting the ball in the back of the net is the issue right now. And of course, Latte Lot is going to be missing. And as you said, Orlando, 3 goalless draws in a row. So they're kind of wondering, hey, what do we got to do to get the ball in the net? Scored 4 against TFC, scored 4 against DC United, who really aren't, I would say, among the best teams in MLS, Tommy. But let's hope for at least 1 goal, and for that 1 goal to be scored by Atlanta.
That would be nice.
Good start.
So Sydney, before we get to Orlando, I went back and listened to the three of you talk before I came on Monday, and I know that wasn't our normal
Good
time
choice.
because hey, got to get those numbers up. Just one
More
extra
views.
view, one view helps. Listen to everyone's rants, and I think everyone has had one. But I keep going back to here over the past week, and I put this in the Discord. At this point, I just don't want to hear it from the players anymore. I don't want to hear from Ronnie D
Yeah.
anymore. Like I've heard it. You know, before we hopped on, I watched the videos from training yesterday with TRA and Click and listened to what they had to say. And, you know, it's just at this point, it just feels like when you're playing EFC, and you got the coach and you got 4 options
Right.
to, you know, come in there. It's like, okay, like I've heard it. I've seen it. We got to fight harder. Then we find out the players are fighting. Okay.
Yeah.
And then I fall for
Literally.
it. Hook, line, and sinker. We're beating Philly. We're going to beat them. And then we don't. And I've seen, you know, I saw Rob Ustry, you know, tweet the Garth Lager way, we're back, baby
Yeah.
thing. And to this day, you know, like,
It's
you think that
debatable.
Garth sits there and just goes, why did I say that? Was I just like just guilty of the moment and just was like,
Right.
I'm gonna say this?
Yeah.
Where are they? Where is ownership? Look, Arthur Blank's not going to come on and say anything about Atlanta United. It's very rare that he does. But
Yeah.
where is Garth? Where is Chef Henderson at this point? Because I went back and I just randomly thinking about a lot of the hard times of 2020, 2021, 2022.
Yeah.
I see a fire Garth here. I completely disagree with you on
come
firing
on.
Garth. But Darren Eales was always on 92.9 every single week, win or loss, talk about the team, be honest with the fans about what's going on. You know, again, a lot of it is just BS talk, but you don't hear from them. And I think that's what's frustrating is when a leadership group could go out there and yell, we're back, baby. Go on the radio when you sign Miguel Almiron and you're super happy. I think you need to see those people when times are rough.
Yeah.
And it worries me that they're not out there because it's going to be depending on what the result is of Saturday. But let's just think worst, right? If it's another loss, what is Mercedes-Benz Stadium going to look like on a afternoon against Nashville? What does it look like here? And maybe we hear from them. I mean, I see people talking about, you know, bringing Julian Gressel back and the transfer window's closing at midnight. That's midnight,
Yeah.
correct?
11:59 Central Time.
And
So
stop me
12:59
at any
Eastern.
point if there is a signing. Just tell me to shut up
Yes.
and tell me what it is. But I want to hear from somebody because last summer when I was in town against Columbus, there was a protest about them raising season ticket prices. There were a lot of fans that were upset because you haven't given them a good product over the last 4 years. And I said this in our group chat. Like, I felt like I was a Garth Lagerway shield
Yeah.
for a long time, sitting there, like telling everyone on Spaces, like, I know we didn't sign 2 DPs. They're playing the long game here. They're playing the long game. It's going to be okay. We are going to. Did we sign somebody?
No, we did it, but let me stop you though because I know I kind of know where you're going with this. Like, to your point, why
Don't
isn't
tell me
Garth
you know where
coming?
I'm going.
Well, no, but to your point, why isn't Garth coming on the radio and saying, "Hey, here's what's going on. I own this and all of that." He said from the jump, like, this isn't who I am. I'm not the player. I'm not the person that'll be up in the media every week, up on the radio every week. I understand his approach, but the optics certainly looked bad. You know, the team is in one of the worst stretches of its tenure outside of COVID. And
No, it is.
like
I mean, it's
well,
worse than that.
well, I would say COVID is worse, but we'll just forget about 2020
not
altogether.
COVID. Well,
That you're
the
a shot.
disease was worse, but the
Yeah,
year,
the disease
but
was
the
worse,
results
certainly.
are worse.
But from a on field standpoint, things are really bad. And I can understand, you know, your point. Why isn't Garth coming up? And while he said, "Hey, this is who I am," again, the optics don't look good. And so I guess to your point, what would you want to hear from Garth Lagerwey at this point in time?
Look, Carlos Bocanegra wasn't a radio guy either. When he came on,
Yeah.
he was super uncomfortable because he did take over Darren Neal's spots there for at least a few weeks at when Darren left and came on during, again, a very rough time of this team
Yeah.
and still was out there answering some questions. And it's just would be good to hear. And it doesn't have to be Garth. It could be Henderson. Henderson hopped on 92.9, I think once or twice
Yeah.
from there to say something. And maybe he is on the pregame show. I don't listen to it. We're on here talking about lineups.
Right.
So I never listen to that, but I haven't seen anybody bring it up. But again, like during some of these hard times, you just want to hear from someone else. Because this is one of the worst times in Atlanta United's history when
Sure.
it comes as far as results. And when you hear that, when Doug asked that question, and then it starts spreading more because just because it's happening, it doesn't really spread out. But when that question's asked, then everybody starts going, "Oh, it is the worst start. I didn't
Yeah.
realize it was the worst start." But he says it. Now I'm thinking about it, and I just want to hear something from them. Like, and again, it could just be sports talk is mostly just generic copy paste from what GM, coach to coach, player to player is going to say.
Yeah.
I just don't like that they're not out there at least saying something to this group. It's very easy to go out there when you sign a big player and say how great it is. But when you're a big team like this, I think that you should say something there. And I hope that eventually it does get to that point. And maybe they do. Maybe they do after the transfer window closes. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, I know last time when the transfer window closed, they had a conversation. I think that maybe was when they were talking to Jason. There was that
Right.
real long interview which
Yeah.
was fantastic. But I would just like to hear from him at some point in the next few weeks. Winning, if they start winning, still like to hear from him. If they're losing, I'd like to hear from him. It's just I don't like that it's quiet because again, the "we're back baby" thing has been flying all around the internet.
No, that's a mistake, and I'm sure if we were to get that back, I'm sure he'd want that back in a heartbeat. Just if you look at where the team is right now, they're nowhere near back. I know I wrote something about, hey, is Atlanta United back, kind of tongue in cheek on scarfandspikes.com, and right now they aren't. And yeah, he would want that one back. I think if he were given the opportunity. Before we go on, just a quick shout out to Sweetwater Brewery, sweetwaterbrew.com. Learn about their 420 ales, all their brews they have going on. They just had the 420 Fest, the Rowdy Peach IPA as well. They just had their 420 Fest over Easter weekend. Big turnout. I've seen all the pictures on social media about it. So they're coming off of that. But sweetwaterbrew.com. Definitely appreciate Sweetwater Brewing Company, I should say, their support of Scarves and Spikes. Scarvesandspikes.com, where you can find us, all of our articles, link to our store, things like that, and patreon.com/scarvesandspikes. We have a watch along on Saturday, Tommy, I believe, for the Orlando match. So only way to get in on that and hang out with myself, Tommy, Tyler, Henry, possibly, and maybe others from the Scarves and Spikes crew. Let's go to patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes. You have my soccer newsletter going out every weekday morning. My or our Scarves and Spikes Unfiltered. Tyler did one the other day, and other stuff that we've added on.
Did he have a shirt on for it?
He did. He did have a shirt on.
Well, you told me we have to do unfiltered video, so I wasn't sure what that meant.
Not that unfiltered.
Okay. I will.
PG unfiltered.
Let me write that down before I have to record my first one.
Yes, please don't do anything like unfiltered. But yeah, patreon.com/Scarves and Spikes is where to sign up and get access to our watch along on Saturday against Orlando.
Please let there be a win on a watch along. Please let there be a win. We have to, City. I'm going to put you in charge by Saturday. We need a dump button for every time that I just drop an F-bomb during this game. If it gets as bad as it could be, just work on it. You're the tech guy. Figure it out.
I'll try my
We'll
best.
be ready for it.
I'll try my best. So we talked about Orlando. Well, let's go back just real quick to what you were saying. Look, I mean, fans are rightfully frustrated, especially considering the players that were brought in, and things haven't clicked. I've said it before. I'll say it again. Rob Valentino, to take nothing away from what he did, was a tremendous coach for that moment. If Rob Valentino were to be brought back, what would the argument be? Would it be, hey, give him time with these players, eventually he'll get it together? If he were to be brought back, we have to hold him to the same standards that we're holding Ronnie Dyla. Because let's deal in hypotheticals. If you were the coach, if you were named the permanent coach from the jump, and Lady United were still 2-4-3 in the first 9, will the argument still be, hey, this coach sucks, the fire Rob, things like that, Atlanta United made a bad decision? Or would it be, give him time? I mean, hindsight's 2020, right? I mean, we can't deal in hypotheticals. We can only deal in reality. And the reality is Rodney Dylas here. And I think we mentioned this the other day. Does he stay the whole year? I think he does, unless something drastic happens. I don't think you're there
What's
yet.
drastic, though?
I mean, drastic is you go on the road and you don't win a match, I feel like.
During the big road trip from hell?
Yeah, that's drastic. If you get to the other end of that and it looks like playoffs is completely out of the question, I think that would be drastic, because your stated goal was, we want to finish in the top 4, get ourselves at least one home playoff match. If you get to the other side of that and there's no chance of that happening, yeah, I think you start to make a decision or start to have a hard look at, is Ronnie Dyla the coach to take us to the next level? That being said, I've said this numerous times, there has to be ownership among the players in the locker room. As Dunny said, who is that player who can step up and lead this team outside of Brad Guzan? Brad Guzan, you don't have to question his leadership, but is the team too comfortable with his voice? Have they tuned him out? I feel like I mentioned that last year. Have they tuned Brad Guzan out? Who is that other player to step up? It has to be somebody other than Jay Fortune. It has to be somebody other than Noah Cobb. Sabe, you see, he goes all out every match. Derek Williams, I feel like, has leadership potential. Who else, though, is that, Tommy? Who else is it? And somebody needs to, if not stand up and say, you got to get stuff together, it has to be on the field. It has to be, not killing somebody, not killing your opponent, but you just got to get stuck in and really, just show that you care. Show that you care.
I don't disagree, but I mean, you say it, and we've just been asking that question, and the part where I forgot to get to is, fans were complaining about the money that they're spending, and I understand that, and that happens in all sports, right? Everything's going up in price these days, but what's more valuable than money? And that's time. And you heard Henry say on Monday that he turned it off and went to watch the rest of MLS.
Right.
I had it on. I kept an eye on it on Saturday while I was watching WrestleMania. Sorry, CM Punk was more exciting to me that night, especially the way I was watching that first half. Time is
Travis
important.
Scott more important, though.
Oh, don't get me started on Travis Scott. But these people spend their hard-earned money, and if you're not a season ticket holder and you're at home watching it, or you go to the watch-alongs, whether it's at Scarves and Spikes, or you go to one of the bars where the supporters are watching that, you're spending time, and time is valuable, right? You can be spending time with your friends, your family, but you stay home maybe and watch the game there. You need to give them a reason to watch this. And if there's another game out there that's like this Philadelphia game where it's obviously it was pathetic. I mean, really, just to say what it is. I mean, and you see these videos going viral. I won't say viral, but like they're getting shared a ton of just horrible plays by Atlanta United. Just absolutely horrible. you question yourself and say, why are you spending time doing this? Like, why am I watching this? And please, I'm not talking about watching Scarves and Spikes. Come back every Monday,
Yeah.
Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. We're doing it every day except Wednesday. Take a day off from Scarves and Spikes on Wednesday, or not Wednesday, Thursday. Today's Wednesday. I don't know. And Tuesdays.
Right.
Any day with tea, ignore us. But any other day, come back. But like, people are last summer were basically tired of the bullshit. That's what they were. Hey, if
Yeah.
our guest could swear, I could swear. They're getting tired of the bullshit.
Uh-huh.
And it started coming back. You started getting the goodwill back into the fans, and now you're back. Now you're back to the BS. And you've got to do
Back on
something.
that
You
BS.
need to change something here, because this isn't. I can't make fun of Vancouver anymore, because Vancouver is
Because Vancouver's pretty good.
doing pretty damn well. So I gotta change my shtick here.
They're one step away from Champions Cup final.
Shut up. All right, we'll go to Montreal. Sorry, Montreal. You are now my new Canadian
Right.
disaster thing. You have some of the most loyal fans here for a long time. And look, I understand that you went out, you spent some money, got some players. Look, we were all excited for Latte Loth. We were all excited for Miguel Almiron coming back, but it's not working. And I said it on Monday when we talked about this. With Garth Lagerway, and this is why he gets paid the medium bucks. The big bucks get paid to NFL and NBA and MLB presidents over MLS. But he gets paid the medium bucks to figure out when something is that he's got to figure out when something isn't working and when to move along from it. If you wait too long, you're going to get people's jobs. You're going to get you could lose your job. Other people can lose their jobs. It could turn into a whole disaster. So I'm hoping that Garth Lagerway has his hands, his ears, any body part. Someone brought up about feet on here earlier. You got every body part listening into that locker room, listening at practice, realizing, well, I mean, we had some questions with Carlos Bocanegra, and if he had a pulse on this team for years.
Yeah.
So I don't know Garth personally. None of us do. I mean, you guys have, obviously had some interactions with him, but you just have to hope that he has the right mindset to figure out when to pull a plug on something. And I'm not saying on Ronnie D but like players as well. If a guy's not working out for whatever reason, then you have to move a player. It might look bad, but that's what you do. That's what the GM, Chris and Garth, are going to have to do, is be able to figure this out, because your puzzle pieces that I talk about every single week, they did not fit in the right place. And now you can't get all your players your best players on the field, because they all don't want to play the position that you have assigned to them at the beginning of the season. It's just like at lunchtime in high school. They put you down and say, this is where you're sitting. And you're saying, screw that. I don't want to sit here. I'm going to go sit with my friends
somewhere else. Yeah.
I'm going to sit somewhere else. You got to figure it out. You have to figure out how you're going to get this to work. And if Almiron, you're going to keep playing him on the right, he's going to be moving to the middle. And Saba's just keeps saying, I'm not playing the left. I'm not saying that he's saying it, but like, obviously he's not very good at it. He's struggling there. Then you've got to make a move to make this work, and you need to make it quick.
So, kind of moving on to Saturday against Orlando. Back to back goalless draws for Orlando, and they're kind of looking to get things back on track before it's too late for them. You're missing Williams. Well, that's not confirmed, but it's likely that if Williams plays, it won't be as a starter. You're missing Muyimba. You're missing Latte Lot, and you're missing. I'm blanking. Who is it? Oh, so you're missing Gregerson. So I presume you see a Brom Cobb center back pairing. I want to see, and this is not. I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen. I would like to see Jay Fortune in midfield, because what the match against Philadelphia proved from a lineup standpoint is Dyla rates Jay Fortune. He rates him enough to put in a position that's not familiar to them, just sort of to Atlanta United's detriment. That's not the reason why they lost, but Jay, he's played left wing before, but it's not a position that super familiar to him. I want to see a Fortune Leash midfield and see how that goes. I want to see a Rob Cobb pairing at center back. Abram's not been bad. He's not been great. He's been okay, but he's kind of been the whipping boy in the past, definitely because of his contract. So I want to see that. And then, of course, you have Latte Lot missing. I would love to see, I think we'll see TRA at striker. I mean, agree, disagree? Like, where do you kind of see the lineup shaping up?
That left is just scary to me. It is. I don't think you have an answer.
The what?
The left.
Oh yeah, left wing. Okay, left wing.
Yeah, you just don't have a good answer here, and you got to fit in what you can. And if the answer is, I don't know. I've at this point I've just kind of lost to where they should be here, and Omar Puntero should not be a starter. Dude will get injured. I mean, he obviously had his moments there.
And injured.
I'm sorry.
No, see the Enrique injured. Tia Ray. He seems to get injured more than most. But I mean, I feel like he's your backup striker at this point.
Yeah, I mean, he should start from there, and just see what happens. I mean, if you try some things, Tagashi, I'd love to have Togashi. I'd love to have him on the left. I'd love to try to see him on the left and see what happens. And it can't hurt. You have nothing else.
But fortunately,
you just don't. No, I don't want him on the left. I just don't. I'm out of ideas, but I don't get paid the medium bucks to do it. I don't. So
that's Ronnie Diala's problem.
That's his problem to be able to get something out of this, and you hope that they get a result. But I see things in here about you have to say, I will say that I completely disagree when people make comments like you need to sit Brad Guzan because the team relies on him too much as a leader. There is no sport where you just sit somebody and say I'm gonna sit my best guy to teach the rest of the team a lesson. That just doesn't happen anywhere. I'm gonna sit Patrick Mahomes because these guys aren't catching passes. That just doesn't happen here. But I will say real quick, because I know we're gonna start wrapping up here and do our predictions. I've been seeing a lot of people talk about Julian Gressel, and I don't know if I see this. And man, there was someone in here, victory -3 said, was talking about like looking in the past and bringing Miguel Almiron. Multiple teams were looking to bring him in here.
Right.
Now, you obviously sell a player, unless you're the Atlanta Falcons and lie to your players. You sell them on a position that you're going to play. And I still think that Miguel Almiron can be good in this league. Now, Tyler went up and saying, he's a top three
winger,
top player of all time of any sport. From there, I didn't agree with that, but I still think that unfortunately, none of these guys are working out in the positions that you want, and that's the problem here. I don't think that he's washed or anything like that. But if Julian Gressel gets moved here, where do you put him? Where does this fit into the puzzle? This is more of a puzzle piece to come in here that just doesn't fit. Do you want to play him in the midfield? Because didn't Miami try that? And I remember Chris and Danny saying they didn't like him in the middle.
Right. Well, by the time people listen to this, deadline will be gone. So if you're listening tomorrow morning or Thursday morning, we'll know if Gressel's here or not.
And if you do, tweet me and tell me.
If he does get moved here, we'll figure out where he goes.
There's my unfiltered video. Because I don't think Miguel Almiron was just we're signing it to bring the fans back. Like, we're just so happy. Yeah. Sell tickets. We're not Montreal. They're not going to do that. Just going to bring up Montreal. You're not going to just bring it back just for the sake of doing that. You bring him back because you think you have it. You don't have a guy that's a former MLS GM or front office person of the year, bringing back a guy just for the Peter Tingles. And if you get that, it's a Spider-Man reference. You're not
Sure.
giving the tingles for it. You bring him back because you think he's going to do something. Unfortunately, he doesn't want to play where you want him to. So I don't think that's it. Julian Gressel, though, if they bring back Julian Gressel, I do think it's for the Peter Tingles. I do. I just don't see why you would bring him in here. You already got two guys.
It's a no for you then.
Yeah, I don't think it's a good idea here. You should be focusing on the left. You should be not focusing on the right anymore. So I don't know what's going to happen with that, but please just get someone on the left.
Right. We'll know if you're listening.
4 hours.
If you're listening to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeart, Thursday morning, you'll know. And I'm sure we'll have some reaction to it. I don't know. We'll see.
Team, I am not allowed to say Tommy Tingles in this house anymore. When that movie came out, I said it got banned. So, and you can already see what it's doing to Sydney. It's even the opposite of Tommy Tingles. So we'll go from there. All right, predictions.
Go for it.
Everyone else's first.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Predictions.
We have Gray who says Orlando 2-0.
Okay.
We have Aaron 2-1 Orlando.
LA United 2 writer, Aaron, by the way.
Yes. I don't know if we brought Aaron's prediction up last week or not.
Yeah.
And Tyler says 1-1.
Jackson says 3-1 Orlando. Henry says 2-0 Orlando.
So what say you?
I'm not sensing a lot of optimism among the Scarves and Spikes staff. I think Atlanta will score finally, but I don't think they'll win. I think it'll be 1-1. I think the attack will start to struggle or continue to struggle even more so with Latte Lot out. So I think you're fortunate to get a goal, but I don't think you're fortunate enough at this point to get a win. And it'll be a hard-fought draw. I think it'll be a hard-fought draw. I don't think it'll be Orlando scores and Atlanta just plays like crap the rest of the way until they nick one at the end. I think it'll be very back and forth. I don't think there will be a ton of chances in this, but I think it'll be a good defensive battle. But I think ultimately Atlanta will come away with the 1-1 draw. And I'll say Miggy scores. Let's say Miguel Marone scores for Atlanta United. Tommy?
I say 1-0 Orlando. If it's another 0-0 draw, if I'm Orlando, I'm just shutting down the franchise at that point. Or you're giving free food away. I don't know if those were home games or not, but your fans deserve something free if you have to go with 4 straight games 0-0. I say 1-0 Orlando. I got to see it, but I didn't see much fight from this team, and they sold me last week. And hearing what Dax was saying, hearing about the players fighting. Actually, I'm going to blame Dax last week for my prediction. From there, he's the one that got me a little bit pumped from there.
Yeah.
Man, this Victory 3.0, I think this person's new, but they're rough on us. Real quick, and because he put a comment there. How do you feel differently about Gressel and Almiron? I think Almiron's. I mean, we've seen that Miguel Almiron still has a lot in him, but I would say with Julian Gressel, I've seen Julian Gressel play over the years, and it seems like it's the same story every single time that I see him. Yeah, he has a performance here and there, but what happens to this guy every time he gets to the big games? He's sacked. Yeah. He's a defensive liability. Columbus had him through their playoff run after Game 1 against Atlanta. I don't even think he touched the playoffs against Atlanta when he was with Miami. It's just I love Julian Gressel. I got my GresselMania shirt upstairs. If he comes back, I'll put it on for nostalgia. But I think that there's one guy that has a little bit more in him. But you look at the predictions here. I mean, we've got 3-1. Team saying 3-1 Orlando. Omar's doing the complete opposite. He's not doing the heel turn. He's doing the face turn.
Right.
He's up. He says 4-0 Atlanta. Bruno 1-1.
The baby face.
4-1. Yeah, 4-1 Orlando. Edgar.
I'm just baby face.
Yeah, 1-1. Both own goals. Tequila. Oh, That's I don't know if that's worse than a 0-0 draw. I don't know what is there. 3-1 Orlando, victory, comfortable 3-0 Orlando, 1-1. Like we need some vibes. You're muted.
Sorry,
I'm sure you're
not a lot of optimism on fans.
No, why should you though?
No, I mean, to be fair, Atlanta United haven't done themselves any favors. So unless they can prove that they can win games, I mean, listen, that they can score goals, this will be the norm, really. Just show some fight. I said the other day, show some fight. Show you care. Like 3-0 against Philadelphia, one of the goals scored with 10 men. I mean, come on. We got to be better than that. So show you care, show some fight, and hopefully come out with at least a result. And then you have a derby against Nashville, another derby, I should say, against Nashville, a true derby against Nashville. And you're back at home. So hopefully you can get things right sooner rather than later before the season slips further away. Any final thoughts?
Let's see what happens. Come hang out with us in the watch along on Saturday. Come on Sunday to scream or celebrate.
Either one.
Be like that. It'd be like, what's that meme where it's like the guy that's all the way at the bottom shooting shooting champagne all over his face for winning. Like you need to there's gonna be pressure on everyone here.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's the players, it's the coach, it's Garth, Henderson, all of this. I don't know. I mean, Henderson came in a little bit late in the process, so I think he could be like, well, you guys already had this done, so it wasn't me. It wasn't me. Right. I didn't do any of this.
Yeah.
But if we don't see a move here, it's going to be when does the window open up? Isn't it usually like the first couple weeks of June?
In the fall, later than that.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? True. No, not June. I'm sorry. Isn't it usually July? Like July? It's usually around my wedding
July
anniversary.
24th.
July it's 24th. Later this one.
Yeah, it's got pushed back.
Okay. Remember, it always used to be like the first week of July-ish.
Mm.
That's gonna be a hard 2 months for you to be able to get through here.
Yep.
But you better start planning things correctly and moves that you do need to make, because you're gonna have to make some changes, I think, here, unless all of a sudden this turns around. And that's what's going to be a true leader there, if he can figure out what needs to be changed and what now. I don't care what it is. So with that, see you all on Saturday. Bring your best drinks. Sydney, bring your best water. Maybe bring a little thing to pour in it, give it a little bit of flavor. And if you're feeling down low, watch Home Alone 3. I just got this shirt. I'm so happy.
Nice shirt.
Look, when you're sad and you just can't put the Atlanta United kid on, you got to put the Home Alone 3 shirt on. That's really what's best for business here. I'm so excited to hop on today, though, because I've been on a way too much wrestling. I think it was Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and there's just no WWE on today. So I am happy to be able to talk about soccer, even if it's Atlanta United.
You need a little palate cleanser. I
do. I definitely needed a palate cleanser, and we're working on some ways too to have some fun here during this. We're talking about doing maybe a hot sauce challenge. That could be some fun while we're talking about soccer. I mean, it's nothing like running to the bathroom mid predictions, but I'm down for it.
We shall see.
What could go wrong?
I know. Trip to the emergency room. Who knows?
Well, last time I did the hot sauce challenge, I had to sleep on the couch. Tina wouldn't let me in bed. So that is the worst that could happen, I guess.
Right.